At this time, I'd like to call the Jackson County Commission 14 August 2023 meeting to order. With that, I'd like Mr. Manning, the county administrator, to please call the roll to establish a quorum.
Mr. Gully. Mr. Kimmer. Present. Mr. Buckner. Mr. McBride. Present.
We do have a quorum. At this time, if we'd all stand, we'd like to ask the county attorney, Mr. Porter, to please offer our invocation, and Mr. McBride to please lead our pledge of allegiance.
God, our Father in heaven, we're truly blessed to be here this day, as we are in every day that you give us to live. Thank you for all the blessings we have in this county, the wonderful people of the county, and the great beauty that we have. God, we're especially mindful these days and this time of year of the students and the teachers and the administrators as they go back to school. God, we just pray you'll be with all of them, keep them safe. God, we pray that they'll all do well in school. God, we pray you'll continue to watch over us and guide us every day. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen.
Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In your packets, you have the agenda for tonight's meeting. We do have a request to add in another item in addition to the agenda that was published last Friday. And that item would be fall under the work session area of the sheriff. And the item will be the system level school resource officer agreement that has been discussed and worked between the Jackson County Sheriff's Office, Jackson County Board of Education, and those two participants would be a party to the signature as well as the Jackson County Commission. So at this time, do I have a motion to approve the 14 August 2023 agenda with the addition of the work session area under sheriff, item E1, system level school resource officer agreement between the Jackson County Sheriff's Office, the Jackson County Board of Education, and the Jackson County Commission?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. We do have some awards and presentations tonight. I would like to ask Sheriff Harden to please come forward.
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners. As always, it's our pleasure to point out our employees of the Sheriff's Office and the jail when they do outstanding things or achieve things in their career. And today we have three such things we'd like to point out. First of all, I'd like to bring up Deputy Hunter Franks and Deputy Jonathan Wilbanks. Both these deputies attended about a week-long field training officer class, and we started a program with field training officers so that we can get people out of the academy and continue their training on our policies, procedures, and the way we do things. And so we decided to start getting some senior agents, senior deputies out there, get them trained so they'd be certified in doing this. So at this time, without further ado, we'd like to issue a field training ribbon to Deputy Hunter Franks, Deputy Jonathan Wilbanks. Great job. I'd like to call Deputy Cody Wilson up. This is a life-saving award, and we've given out several of these in the past year, and we're so proud to give these out because this means a life that was saved. I'm going to read the letter from the lieutenant. It's with great pleasure that I write to you today to nominate Deputy Cody Wilson for the Jackson County Sheriff's Office Life-Saving Award. I believe Deputy Wilson deserves the Life-Saving Award because of his quick response and the use of Narcan, naloxone, to which saved a citizen's life. The incident which this occurred is documented in case number 230732, as described below. On 5/23/23, around 5:22 p.m., Deputy Wilson responded to County Road 57, Nottingham Apartments in Pisgah, reference to a welfare check of a male subject. When Deputy Wilson arrived at the scene, he made contact with family members to a male subject that led him in the apartment. Deputy Wilson observed the male subject lying on his back. He checked him for a pulse. The subject was in and out of consciousness at the time, at which time Deputy Wilson radioed dispatch and requested medics to come to the scene for a possible overdose on prescription medications. The Pisgah Fire Department arrived on the scene, began to check vitals. The subject was still in and out of consciousness. Deputy Wilson went to the patrol unit and got his Narcan. When Deputy Wilson got back the patient into the apartment, the medics advised the male subject did not have a pulse. Deputy Wilson then administered the Narcan to the subject, and shortly after that, the male became alert and began to talk to Pisgah Fire. Highlands Medical Service then arrived at the scene, transported the subject to the emergency room. Deputy Cody Wilson is a highly motivated and highly qualified deputy who has continuously demonstrated his ability to lead and excel. Deputy Wilson's quick thinking and rapid response went above and beyond the call of duty and brings great credit to himself and the Sheriff's Office. I believe his act of valor should be recognized, and he says, I'm sure you will too. Appreciate his act of courage and take this request into consideration. We have considered it, and we are issuing a life-saving award to Deputy Cody Wilson. Thank you very much on behalf of the citizens of Jackson County. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, let me offer any comments from our commissioners.
Just wanted to say thank you, gentlemen, for your hard work, your dedication. We really appreciate it, sir.
Two of these gentlemen are former students of mine. They're from the Woodville area, so glad to say they're doing well. Appreciate all y'all do.
You know, I have to say it's a testament to the department that Rocky has and runs to have so many people come up here with life-saving awards and be recognized. There's more so recently than I can ever remember, so it's just a testament to the department that we have, and we're grateful to have, you know, the public service that we have. So thank you all very much.
If I can add, let me say thanks to these young men that we brought in today to recognize their contribution and their service to the citizens of Jackson County. Our Sheriff's Department and our deputies and our folks in our jail service are serving our citizens every day. Every day they're out there patrolling, they're taking care of the safety of the citizens of Jackson County, and we certainly appreciate this. And this is an item that we see often, as our commissioners have said, we see often happen in Jackson County. And without your service, we would have citizens of Jackson County that would not be with us today. So thanks very much, and really appreciate. And Sheriff, thanks for your recognition of the members of your force.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So do we have any public comment? Okay, if there's no public comment, we'll move into the new business portion of our meeting. First in your packet are the minutes from a number of meetings that we have had. You have the minutes of the July 24, 2023 special work session, the minutes of the July 24, 2023 meeting and work session, the July 31st budget hearing, the August 1st budget hearing, and the August 2nd budget hearing. Those are in a packet. I think they're pretty well joined together in the packet. So do I have a motion to adopt the minutes from the July 24, 2023 special work session, the July 24, 2023 meeting and work session, the July 31st, 2023 budget hearing, the August 1st, 2023 budget hearing, and the August 2nd, 2023 budget hearing?
Make a motion.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is a motion to approve and sign resolution and loan agreement with Alabama Transportation Infrastructure Bank relating to limited obligation revenue bond. At the special work session on the 24th of July, we approved procuring a bond that would be dedicated to specifically road and bridge work in Jackson County. At the time, we had looked at a number of levels of potential funding. Back in July, or back 6 months ago, we had taken a look at this, and the bond rate was about 4.5%. At the July 24th meeting, whenever we had the discussion, the bond rate was at 3.78%. We were, at that point, made the decision to move forward to accept the bond. What we're accepting today is, are we willing to approve the bond and accept the 3.78% bond rate that is just, we've had the opportunity, and I forget the date that the bond was,
August 1st.
August the 1st. We went to bond, and we were pleasantly surprised that the bond rate had decreased to 3.78%, which in effect reduced our debt service every year by a little over $100,000 per year, which helps us a lot. So in the packet, you have two items, really three. You have a resolution to be approved, and then you have the loan agreement to be approved. And so this agreement is between the Alabama Transportation Infrastructure Bank and Jackson County for a limited obligation warrant bond, $4.5 million with a 3.78% interest rate, and the bond payment is over 15 years. We do have an optional redemption period per the agreement at the 10-year period. The bond has pledged certain items of revenue, and those are Rebuild Alabama funds and roads, bridges, building fund, Fund 112. And the agreement says, and the resolution says, that the principal of and interest of the warrant shall be paid solely by the pledged revenues and shall not constitute a charge on the general fund or the general revenues of the county. And so, as I said, in the packet is the resolution as well as the loan agreement. With our approval and signature of this, the bond payment will be made, I understand, the 29th of August, and the bond funds will be placed in the bank at that point. And again, only for use with roads and bridges of Jackson County. With that, do I have a motion to approve and sign the resolution and loan agreement with Alabama Transportation Infrastructure Bank relating to the limited obligation revenue bond?
I make that motion.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion or questions? If none,
Thank you.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Are any nays? No nays, unanimous. Thank you very much. Also, at our last work session, we had a discussion about the extending the contract with Viapath. That contract is in your packet. This contract, in effect, as I said, extends the relationship with this company. And the contract extension it offers for the Command Inmate Telephone System, Inspire Tablet, and Visit Now Video Visitation System. The benefit of the extension of this contract is the county share goes up to 55% versus 44%, and Viapath is offering to provide the county a one-time technology grant of $50,000. So you see the contract in your packet. Second page provides the details of the revenue share and the grant. With that, do I have a motion to approve and sign the jail contract with Viapath?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Item D in our new business agenda is a motion to approve the purchase of new pole pads. We had this discussion in work session, I guess, about 2 months ago. At the time, we looked at the option of making this decision and approval once we entered into our new budget year, but also left the option on the table, if needed, to ensure that we had the availability of the pole pads for our next election cycle. We would move forward and procure prior to our next 24 budget. We realize now that we need to go ahead and procure to ensure that we are going to have the new pole pads in time for our next election cycle. There is a sale order agreement in the packet with election systems and software. Total price is $61,235. This is procurement of 50 pole pads. And I'd like to ask our county administrator to discuss where we would get the funds and reimbursement opportunities.
Yes, sir. The expenditure would be out of the general fund under the election fund, where we report all the election-related expenses. We would pay for that out of cash balance of this year in order to go ahead and procure these and get them in time. The reimbursement that we get on the state's portion of that will come in next year, and that will come in as a revenue to the same fund.
And so it would go back into the general fund?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So with that, do I have a motion to approve the purchase of the new pole pads from election systems and software?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second. Any discussion?
All I've got to say is, or ask, will that be here before the next election comes to be used in
Yes.
time?
The main thing about doing it now has something to do with the warranty, to make sure it's warranted through the next system, so that the next cycle. So that was kind of the urgency to get it done now, so that we're warranted through the next one. And this also will put a pole pad at every polling place, so that should help as far as the registrars work. Thank y'all for doing this.
Okay. Any other question? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. In, I think, the last couple of work sessions, we have discussed access management policy for Jackson County. In your packet, you have a Jackson County, what is recommended as a Jackson County access permit to be completed by anyone requesting support. That would go to our Jackson County Department of Public Works. And also in the packet is the proposed Jackson County Department of Public Works access management policy. What this policy does is provide criteria and conditions which must be met by any person, firm, corporation, or entity seeking to access or connect roads, streets, highways, or any part thereof to any Jackson County public road, highway system to any part thereof, and to prohibit any access or connection to Jackson County highways, streets, roads, or the highway system which do not meet with and conform to proper engineering design and which do not have approval of the Jackson County engineer or his designee. The subject, or the permits, once submitted, is subject to the approval by the Jackson County engineer. With that, do I have a motion to approve access management policy for Public Works Department?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion. To have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? And let me ask the county engineer, any other considerations associated with this access management policy?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Commissioners. Just a couple things that we've touched on possibly, but I would like to reiterate and hopefully seek some direction as far as from a practice standpoint, maybe not necessarily policy. And that relates to two items. One is, you'll notice there's an adopted and effective date at the top of this policy. So that would help us, and also some clarification on the work that's in progress. So some distinguished time or some distinction between things that are in progress. I'm assuming that we would be allowed to go ahead and clear out the queue of driveway installations that have been inspected, and we are okay with the location. And from this point going forward with new work, this policy would take effect. So just something to consider and maybe get back with us on. And then also, as it relates to access, permitted access, and the future maintenance thereof. So, for example, if we take it from a driveway point consideration, and the property owner is permitted and the installation takes place, and it's the responsibility of the property owner, then the future maintenance of that access. So currently, just as a reminder, the county maintains the roadside ditch, the structure that's in it, the fill material that's over the structure, as well as the surface. So in times of high flow or flood events, or deteriorated structures, pipes that are rusted out, or everything that you can imagine, from burning leaves in the ditch to it catches the pipe on fire, those things happen. So the county currently maintains that connection everywhere. So in comparisons to other counties, city and state, it's a mixed bag. So for example, the county that we borrowed this policy from, they maintain the roadside ditch, the structure, but do not maintain the fill or the surface. So the city, by comparison, maintains the roadside ditch, the drainage way, so any clean out and minor work on that fill material, but not the fill and not the surface more than one foot from the edge of pavement. So there's differences in what are allowed. So I just offer that up for consideration too. And I say this in practice, not policy, because we're asking for your generation in distinguishing those differences out in the field and making a judgment call from the direction that we would receive from you all. So I just wanted to offer those two things up for consideration and potentially future discussion or guidance as it relates to those.
John, how many jobs are on the books now to get?
So there's less than 10 that have been inspected, ready to go, and then less than 10 requests that exist currently for us to come out and start the process of inspection. And just a reminder of that, we receive the request, then a location is marked or suggested by the property owner. We do an inspection, size the pipe, the property owner purchases the pipe, and then we install. So that's the process that would change to the permitting process, in which the property owner would be responsible for all the above.
Okay, any other questions?
Mine would be, you're asking us to set an effective date, so how long would it take you to finish the team?
I can't answer that 100%.
Can we just say, once those 10 are completed, then this will go into effect?
Yeah, so I don't see this policy being prevented by that work to be in effect now. We would just, finish what we started.
You can just
So
make
it
it
would-
applicable to new applications as they come in, beginning the effective date, which would be the day of
Yes.
effective.
So we could make it effective today for any new
New
applications.
applications, yes.
And do we need to add that? That just becomes part of the written.
Administrative for Jonathan.
Yeah, administrative. Now regarding maintenance, I will offer just my thought that once installed by the property owner, we still would want to have control over the easement that we're responsible for. That's just my thought. And not dependent on the property owner for all maintenance of that. But that's a thought.
So what would that entail?
That would entail, I guess, everything except the surface structure, the pipe and the ditching. And we're responsible for ditching anyhow, I believe.
Yeah, so there's a lot of scenarios that you could imagine by this. So there are conditions to where the argument could be made that the roadway conditions contribute to whatever could potentially happen at an access. So, for example, high shoulders of the road channel the water down, and the first place for that to exit the roadway surface is at a driveway location. So in a flood or torrential rain, that their driveway has been scoured out, and upon inspection we realize that we share in that effect. So, and there's judgment calls, I think, that'll be needed, that it's hard to ink down in a policy, and in my opinion better suited for a practice. Now, I think I also would argue that it's burdensome for county taxpayer dollars to maintain the surface on unimproved access points all across the county. So considering the resources and the need that could arise from that, I think we're in a place where we would love to do that, but we really have to prioritize where we want to apply those resources. So that's kind of two ends of the spectrum there of, hey, my gravel's worn out, to, you know, we've had a flood event and now I have a scoured driveway.
So if I could restate, my thought is maintaining ditches still remains our responsibility as part of easement, control of easement. And the water flow, which would be the piping, seems that we would be responsible. I propose we're responsible, but the surface, to maintain the gravel surface, I'm not proposing that would be our responsibility. I'm just offering my thought.
And I don't think we have to settle this today, but I mean, we certainly can, but just, you know, we may want to discuss and look at some different scenarios and things of that nature.
Okay.
So are you proposing that we adopt the policy of the permitting and the policy today and then reevaluate the maintenance program later? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, anytime you guys are comfortable, we can discuss the maintenance. We just want to be clear on what we need to do going forward as it relates to this policy and future.
So with the maintenance on roads or access points that are already installed, would it follow the same procedures we've always done? Would this just apply to things that we're putting in from this point forward, or would this be?
So this policy would relate to new installations from
The new installations on?
beyond today, and the maintenance of everything, essentially from the time we decide forward, is really the question.
So I gather we're at a point where we approve the policy effective today, and for all new items moving forward, that would just be part of the written policy that Jonathan would add. And have a further discussion about maintenance of the system beyond that. Is that fair? Okay, with that, do I have a motion to approve the access management policy for Public Works Department effective today, 14 August 2023?
I'll make it.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
I will abstain, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Being a
Have one-
contractor in the county, I should abstain.
Okay. So, appreciate that. Thank you. Next, we're going to get into a number of hirings. We've had the opportunity in these hirings to both select new folks to work for Jackson County, as well as the opportunity for promotion of people within our county system. So the first is, and it's in your packet, is from Public Works Department. Our county engineer, Mr. Campbell, is a recommendation based upon committee selection to hire a clerk 2 position at Public Works with a grade 5, step 2 pay level. So do I have a motion to approve the hiring committee's recommendation for the vacant office clerk position at Public Works Department?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, have a second?
I'll second it.
And we have a second, any discussion? No discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item in your packet is also from our county engineer, Mr. Campbell, in the Public Works Department. It is a motion to approve the hiring committee's recommendation for a vacant sign technician position at Public Works Department. The position will be a grade 6, step 3 position. Do I have a motion to approve the hiring committee's recommendation for the vacant sign tech position at Public Works Department?
Make that motion.
We have a motion, have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And we have a third hiring recommendation from our Public Works Department, Mr. Campbell. And it is for the hiring of a vacant HMT 2 position in the Public Works Department. It is based upon the committee's selection, and the pay grade would be a grade 5, step 4 position. Do I have a motion to approve the hiring committee's recommendation for the vacant HMT 2 position at the Public Works Department?
I'll make that motion.
Motion, have a second? Have a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next hiring is the hiring for a vacant financial clerk position at the Solid Waste Department. The recommendation is from Mr. Skipper, our Director of Solid Waste, and it's based upon a selection committee's recommendation, and the financial clerk position would be at a grade 6, step 1 level position. Do I have a motion to approve hiring committee's recommendation for the vacant financial clerk position at Solid Waste Department? We have a motion, have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next recommendation, again, is in the Solid Waste Department, is made by Director Skipper. It is for to fill a vacant facility floater position. It is based upon the hiring committee's recommendation, and the position would be a grade 4, step 1 position. Do I have a motion to approve the hiring committee's recommendation for the vacant facility floater position at Solid Waste Department?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion, have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next hiring recommendation is from our county administrator, Mr. Manning. It is based upon the hiring committee's recommendation for the administrative assistant position with the Jackson County Commission. The pay will be set at a grade 5, step 1 level of pay. Do I have a motion to approve the hiring committee's recommendation for the vacant administrative assistant position in the commission office?
I'll make that recommendation. I'll make that motion. I'm
Motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any discussion? None. All in favor say aye.
sorry. Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Also, in new business today, we have a request to approve a surplus equipment proposal for the Public Works Department. And I believe this is if I can ask our county engineer, this is the document that we have to review, okay, with that. And so if I can get a motion in a second, we'll allow our county engineer to come forward and discuss that. Do I have a motion to approve the surplus equipment proposal for our Public Works Department?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion to have a second.
I'll second.
We have a second. So, Mr. Campbell, if I could, would you come forward and discuss this item?
Thank you, Chairman. So we received 2 medium-duty trucks on July 25th. That was just after our last meeting. And this is a proposal for the surplus of the replacements that those 2 vehicles will serve for. This is for 2 vehicles, and this is the standard agreement that you're probably familiar with from J.M. Wood Auction Service that has an absolute commission rate. So this is for 2 T480s, and they are in the 7,000 to 9,000 mile range. So we do have the replacement trucks in hand, and this is the surplus proposal for those vehicles. The target auction date is September 19 to 21. The reason we're asking your consideration for a vote this soon is because the advertisement period would need to begin on the 22nd. So that would allow us to receive the most for our commission on the pre-inspection reports that go out, all of the information that's gathered on the vehicles and pushed out in the mass notifications of inventory that will be available mid-September.
Okay, any questions or comment? So if there's no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries, thank you. Last item in our new business portion of the agenda is a motion to approve a member of the Board of Equalization. In your packet is a letter from the Alabama Department of Revenue. We found that we were delinquent on this, and I'll just make that statement candidly, that this should have been submitted by, they had requested submission by 1 August. And when we realized that we had a responsibility to appoint a member to this, or reappoint, we were beyond the 1 August and did not have time to publish this. The current member that the Jackson County Commission appoints is Laurel Holmes, who has been a member of the committee for 8 years. Also of note, there are 3 members appointed from Jackson County, 1 by the City of Scottsboro, 1 by the Board of Education, and 1 by the Jackson County Commission. So do I have a motion to appoint Laurel Holmes as a member to the Board of Equalization?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. So that concludes our new business portion of the agenda. We will move into the work session. We have several items for discussion. First is in solid waste. We have received a recommended memorandum of understanding with ADEM regarding environmental investigation and compliance. And let me turn the floor over to Director Skipper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. We've been working with ADEM past couple months here lately, making a relationship with them. We've got 2 grants right now we're working on, and in the talk with them, we're trying to make that relationship as best as possible. And so they sent me this memorandum of understanding between Russell County, Alabama, and Alabama Department of Environmental Management. And I'll just give you a, y'all have this copy?
Yes.
Mike Cruz, he's the Chief Removals and Response Unit Environmental Service Branch of ADM. He's the one that's been talking to me about this and sent it to me, wanting, kind of asking the county to do the same thing. And this is his response. I asked him, I said, what's the pros of this, of us, Jackson County, doing this? And his response was, the MOU are simply to establish a process by which the county and ADM follow when investigating a UAD and STS to ensure sites are addressed in a timely and effective manner. In addition, it established who we remediate innocent landowner sites and ensure that we give Jackson County the first right of refusal to perform site redemolition at the department's expense for those sites that qualify. Also, if the county is unable to get resolution, then ADM will step in and enforce, and if needed, pursue the responsibility parties in court. Says one final pro, this is a good PR for both of us. Your commission gets in, blah, blah, blah. So I think it's just another step of, hey, we're giving y'all these 2 grants to help clean up these right-of-ways. This is just another step for them to kind of have their backing is how I'm taking it.
Okay, any questions?
Any idea on the number of sites that we will be looking at?
So the UDRO grant, we've got until 2026. So I'm accepting all the sites. If y'all can find, right now we've submitted one. We're the first county in the state of Alabama to submit one, a site cleanup. It was the site on County Road 93. We should get that finished, cleaned up tomorrow with the help of Cecil and his crew. They're going to come out and help us. So once we get that cleaned up, we'll take pictures and submit it for reimbursement. And then they said they'll open it up to everybody in the state. They're kind of holding, we're kind of their test dummy with this because they're trying to work out the kinks in it and all that. But once we get it cleaned up, it should be tomorrow, get it submitted, they'll approve the reimbursement. Then we'll hit the ground running wide open. We've got 2 submitted, but they're not approving it yet until we get this one cleaned up. They're waiting.
This is, what you're doing with that is a priority, I understand, of the director of ADM.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But let's go back to, if I could, this MOU. If you find a landowner that is in violation of any of the ADM policies, what are the potential implications to the landowner? Do we know?
So right now, what I've talked to them, and what the land, the guy that's over this district, over the land, he's going to come meet with us when he gets some free time, and we're going to ride the county and just look at some sites. But what they're wanting is like I've talked to them, they're getting complaints for unauthorized dumps and stuff like that. And so we've only got 2 guys in this district, and that's Jackson, I believe it's Jackson, DeKalb, Marshall, Madison, pretty much North Alabama. 2 guys are doing the whole North Alabama. So he told me one, we're on the phone, he's like, hey, I'm looking at this one in Paint Rock right now. And I called my enforcement officers in, and I talked to them, and they're like, hey, we've already looked at it, because we're getting complaints too. They're calling the county, they're also calling ADM. So we done the groundwork, done looked at it. It wasn't what the complainant was saying. So we're working with them. Hey, instead of them driving from Decatur all the way out here to look at exactly what we just done, we can say, hey, we've looked at it, we're clear, we're good. Now we come to a site and it is an unauthorized dump, and we tell them, hey, clean this up, and they don't. Then we can say, hey, you got a potential fine up to $25,000. And then if they don't, then we'll call ADM and they'll step in and say, hey, we'll handle it from here.
Okay. One other question from me, is there any responsibility or liability of Jackson County by signing this MOU?
We'll just have to, and from what I've read, we can get out of it. Is that right, Mr. Porter?
We can.
If it gets to a hassle where, hey, it's going to cost us money, we can get out of this agreement. That's all it is an agreement. It's really not a contract. Yeah, it's not a contract. He even sent that in his email. The cost will be the cleanup, but we've got the grant to get us reimbursed for the cleanup.
Okay, have you had a chance to look at this, Mr. Porter?
I have.
Any comment?
It really doesn't change the county's legal obligation or the department's legal obligation. It summarizes
and clarifies what those obligations will be. There is potential that under certain circumstances, ADM can come back to the county and say, you need to clean this up, and give us the first responsibility and opportunity to clean it up. But they could do that under this agreement.
I think you said this, but is it just on the right of ways?
Now this is not the right of way. This is the,
Any.
yeah, this is a cleanup. So this could be on somebody's property.
Okay.
That has an unauthorized dump. So this is not just a right of way.
Yeah, we certainly see a number of cases where we have those problems. Okay. Any other questions? So at this point, would we want to put this on the new business agenda for the next meeting? Okay. Thank you. Next item under solid waste, just an update on trucks.
Paperwork. This is a cash balance, what we have and what we bought already and what we are planning on buying. Kind of a breakdown. So we'll start with this first. Let you see the money. So it shows the cash balance. It shows we bought 3 pickup trucks in August. Shows what it cost, and then our new cash balance, and then September 2023, our first residential truck that was approved last year should be coming in, and you'll see the cost there. You'll see the total cash balance. After we buy one, we'll be able to sell a garbage truck, an old garbage truck. Roughly, I did $50,000 because the last one we sold, that's what it went for. So I think we can at least get that, if not more. September fleet sale, the guarantee, $86,000. That was for the 4 pickup trucks that y'all approved as surplus. And then revenue from one of our customers. And I'm putting that roughly in there because this balance is as of 8/20/2020 of this month for this year. So we still have 2 more months to get some more revenue in. So I wanted to, you can see that revenue from the from KTNA roughly. That's what we should roughly make in September, this month in September. Then November 2023, purchase of 2 more garbage trucks, that was approved. You can see the cost there, and you'll see our total cash balance. Then we can sell 3 old trucks, and again, I just did a roughly $150,000. I'm hoping we can make more because 2 of these should be a little bit newer, so I'll have to get some quotes on those. But again, roughly that price. So you'll see our new cash balance. Then our first quarter for 2024, $75,000. That's kind of what I'm projecting to bring in. And then December 2023 purchase of the truck that y'all approved the PO for. That's a front loader truck. You see what our cash balance will be after that. And then underneath is a new truck that I'll be proposing here in a second. Do y'all have any questions?
I do. Where are you getting your projected first quarter revenue? I mean, what?
So that's just, so we budget that we're going to make roughly $300,000 for 2024. So I just divided it by 4.
Okay, so with this, you are at a negative $127,000 to cover the roll-off.
Yes, sir. So right now we had a truck. I have a wreck, so we're having to rent one right now. It's our front loader truck. We had an adjuster come last week with our insurance, and we've had 2 private adjusters come and get us quotes on how much it'll cost to fix it. I got back today, and I've sent it to our adjuster. It's going to be roughly $100,000 to fix it if they don't find anything extra. So I've submitted it to our insurance, and he's emailed me back. He said, I've worked with this guy, this company. They're based out of Tuscumbia. but they can fix the cab and the bed too. The problem with this is he's about a month out to where he can even, if we get him okay, to he can even start on it. And then we have another issue of how the parts, how long it'll take to get the parts in. So y'all approved the PO for the front loader truck, but it won't be here till December. So our worst case scenario, we have to rent a truck until December. I hope that's not the case. He said, hey, if the parts come in, I think we can knock it out. He talked like he can knock it out within a couple weeks. So we're hoping for the best case scenario. But it could be a couple months till we can get our other truck back up and running. So with that, our roll-off, we only have one truck on our roll-off business. Too many papers. Here's our roll-off dumpster, a breakdown of our gross revenue. So for our roll-off truck, so again, we only have one roll-off truck on the yard right now. It's a 2013. It's a great truck. It's running good, but we only have one. So again, we're in the same situation that we're in with the front loader. If something happens to it and we have to rent one, we're losing money. And you can see here, this is a money maker. We're making money with this business. You can see our gross revenue, and we got it in parentheses with our revenue from KT&A because they've been a great and full customer. You can see our fuel costs, our landfill dump fees, and then our net revenue. So I've got it broke down underneath the 2024 Mack Granite. It's $249,000. With a 12-month trade-in, I got the 12-month monthly cost, what they'll give us after 12 months. And then I have a 24-month trade-in, what they'll give us for a 24-month cost. Not monthly, 12-month month cost and 24-month cost. And then at the bottom, I just wanted to let y'all know about the truck rental. Again, it's close to $11,000 to rent a truck for 1 month. So we're making money in this business, but we only have one truck. Something happens like we did on our front loader, we have to rent to get by. This right here, also with 2 trucks, we can potentially double our revenue. You've got 2 trucks running. The county can take it. We're covered up right now. We can accept more business. So I wanted to break that down to you as well. So back to the other page, it'll show the negative balance if we bought the truck. So I brought y'all here a while back where we can finance it. So I don't want to if we don't have to, but we need this truck. I've got to have a good thing about the roll-off truck is it's another dropout truck. Somebody backed out on it, so we can get it in December. So that's why I put it on here for the first of the year. That's how much it would cost us, and you can see there we don't have the money to cover it.
Okay, any questions?
I don't like financing, I'll tell you that. How long are we collecting insurance for the damaged truck?
How long are we?
Because you told me that the truck that was wrecked, there was insurance was paying for the truck, correct?
The rental? Yes. I do not know yet the answer how long they will cover a rental. Right now, they're covering it for a month. Because it's a minimum of 1 month. And I've asked that question, I have not got the answer.
Okay. And in your roll-off business here, where is your labor cost in that?
So our labor, we already budget for that. So we've already got a guy that we're budgeting for that. So that's why I didn't add the labor cost, because whether it's running or not, we're paying for that guy to be there.
Okay, any other questions?
How's the driver?
Driver's doing good. Thank God he had his seatbelt on. But I guarantee he'll remember that the rest of his life.
Yeah, that's dangerous thing.
What's your average maintenance cost?
On roll-offs,
I gotta find a bigger piece of wood to knock on. Roll-off has been just your minimum tires, oil change, stuff like that. We've been very blessed with this truck that we have.
So you're saying your maintenance cost would be $250 a mile, and based off how many miles you run? I mean, that's an important number to fill in here, to subtract from the gross revenue to get to the net.
Well, what I want you to look at too is the trade-in. So we drive this truck for 12 months, for trade-in, you're not gonna have that maintenance that you're looking at. And it's only costing you $14,145.52 to run it for 12 months. But yes, I can get that number, but it's not like our other trucks that are 10, 15 years old.
So you want to turn this into a rotate trucks every year or 2 years?
Yes, I would turn this into a fleet rotation like Public Works is doing on the dump trucks.
Max, the only brand you looked at?
That's the only one I can get right now.
Okay.
I've looked at Ingram, and they've looked at getting a Peterbilt, and the ones that we're getting now are Kenworth, but Mac's the ones that we can get the quickest. And we've had good luck. We've got a lot of Mac trucks. We've had good luck with them. We've got software for them.
Okay. Any other questions?
Are we required to get a minimum number of bids on the purchase this large?
If they're buying off one that's an approved state bid, we're okay.
Yeah, this would be a state bid with Ingram.
Okay, so the request is that we put on the agenda for the next meeting approval for a roll-off.
Yes, sir, that would be my request.
You have a spec sheet on that truck?
I do not have it with me, but I do have one. That's what I was looking at, something I hadn't been with me.
Okay. So we had a couple of questions asked. I'd like you to try to get the answers to
Yes,
come
sir.
back to the next meeting. I would propose we put it back on the work session, and if we all get through and we're satisfied with answers, then we can move it to set aside the rules and work that.
Just when you're renting right now, how long we been renting? 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
So we got another 3.5, did I hear, we got a potential another 3.5 months. Insurance coverage?
Insurance covers, I do not know that.
Oh,
Right now,
I misunderstood.
right now we're good for 1 month.
1 month, we got 2 weeks to go. All right.
But do you have a plan to keep a backup truck like the one that you're having repaired?
Yes, so the one that is wrecked, that we're getting repaired, it would be a backup truck. Just like the roll-offs, the one we have now, it would be the backup.
It was in pretty good shape.
Yes, sir. And both, again, I've had 3 different companies come look at it to get us a quote on fixing it, and every one of them said, hey, it's fixable. It's to the point now where, and our insurance adjuster said, he said, it has to be 75%, the cost will be 75% because they can't get the trucks right now. So say they totaled out, we wouldn't be able to get a truck till December. That's just because we already had our name on it.
Okay. Any other? So with that, we'll put it on the work session again, brings answers to some of the questions that were asked, and then if we're ready, we'll set aside the rules and move it to vote. Okay?
I got one more truck. But this one we get paid for by grant. So our Udro unauthorized dump grant, what I was mentioning earlier, we've got one site we got to clean up with the Cecil's help, but the county's not set up. We don't have a knuckle boom truck like the city does to go pick up these big sites. The little things we can, but we're starting to get a lot of bigger items submitted to us that will need equipment to clean up. So I reached out to ADM, and with this grant, it'll cover rental, it'll cover equipment. So this is a knuckle boom truck, similar to what you see in the city of Scottsboro. And I reached out to ADM and I said, hey, can we rent one of these with our grant money to help clean up the sites? And they said, absolutely. They said we would just have to break it down. The cost on here, you'll see a grapple truck, $9,000 for 28 days, plus trucking charge was $350 a mile, roughly. I think it's coming from Atlanta, so it'll be roughly $500 to $600 for the trucking. But they said we would just break that price down per day. And he said, hey, if you do, 3, because we're going to try to do them on Fridays. That's our best day to do it. But say we get it lined up where we can do 4 or 5 on Friday. He said, just break that down, divided by 28 days, and figure out how much it costs per day. And then when you submit the reimbursement form, just add that price for the rental, and it'll cover it. So that's what I'm asking now is to help, because again, we're picking up with hands and we're limited on help. Is I can send 2 guys with this truck and we can go throughout the county and clean up these dump sites on the right of way with this versus having to get 4 or 5 guys and with help of Cecil's crew to help us clean up.
All right, question on that. With this grant program, what's the turnaround on the money? I mean, once you submit it?
We're testing the waters. We don't know. We'll be the first one in the state of Alabama to be submitted on the, and it's I know they want it quarterly on the reimbursement side of it. So I'm not asking us to rent this truck from here till 2026. I'm asking us to rent this truck for say a month or 2 months at a time. Not rent it now, but get all the sites labeled where we know where they're at, lined up, and that way then we can project, hey, we've got this truck for this month. Let's go clean up all these sites versus having it sitting on the lot waiting for sites to come up. Right. They're out there. We just got to get them identified and labeled.
Have you explored the state surplus sites on see what the
so I asked them
price would be one of these trucks?
I asked them about purchasing it, and that's a whole nother ball game. They didn't like that. They didn't give me the okay. I'll say that for purchasing.
8 of them.
8 of them. But they did give me the okay for rent.
So your grant is for $150,000
Yes, sir.
for a period of 3 years.
Yes, sir.
That $150,000 has to last you for 3 years. So as you rent trucks, that's going to be part of the usage of your grant funds.
Yes, sir.
So
I'm not requesting us to rent it a lot. If we can get it 2 months, I think we can clean up the county a lot in 2 months.
But you're talking about just on Fridays, correct?
Well, right now we're doing just Fridays.
Okay.
with our because again, I'll have to send 4 guys out to pick up debris. With this here, as long as all my employees are, right now is a good time. We got employees working. I can send out 2 of my men, lead operators, to go out and do these jobs.
With the understanding that the work that they do is going to get returned through this grant.
Yes, we'll get to charge that to this grant.
With all this rental.
Sir?
With all this rental included.
And I may misunderstand, but it seems to me that sort of what you were talking about is we do a process of identifying dump sites, and then can we then rent a truck for that short a period of time to do that, and then turn it back in, and then go for a period of time, identify some more, rather than keeping it a month.
Yes, sir.
Some days it's
we'll have
idle.
It'll cost us $500-600 for freight back and forth, but it's not sitting there not getting used.
Yeah, it's not $3,000 a week.
Exactly.
Okay. So your request is that you be able to rent the truck through the grant process for short periods of time?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Would that be just any areas, or would that be at residence, or what would that cleanup be?
So this will be right away cleanups, but still on these big dump sites at residents, I've talked to them. Look, they're wanting to clean up Alabama. Jackson County's part of Alabama. So they're willing to work with us on these unauthorized dumps on properties, but they're going to want to come and look at it themselves and kind of get a game plan. So if we find a dump site on some property and we submit it, we can say, hey, we've got this piece of equipment that can clean it up, versus them having to get a contractor and clean it up.
All right, how do we determine a dump site on private property?
How do we determine if it is a dump?
Mhm.
We have to rely upon Mr. Skipper and Adam to do that.
So Adam,
Yes.
will make that determination.
Yeah, that's why they want to visit.
Yes, sir.
So you would cue them in on it, and then they would.
Absolutely. And back with the MOU, that's kind of, we want their backing. You pull up somebody and say, hey, you're dumping waste here, you can't do it. Okay. ADEM shows up, it's something, again, county to state. ADEM shows up, hey, you're dumping, you can't do that. They get their shovels out and get to cleaning it up.
Let me ask, would we like to have more information at another work session regarding this before we proceed to approve? Or are we ready to move this to new business?
The only concern I see, and of course, we're not gonna rent this truck if we don't get paid. I'd like to know how much we're gonna have to hold the bag on.
How long?
Right.
Right now, it's quarterly request, so no more than 3 months.
Is this piece of equipment on the state bid list?
The rental,
Yeah. Because even if it's a rental, if it's more than the minimum.
what is it, 15,000?
Yes, sir.
So we're good.
That's annual. 15,000 annual.
Which would happen real fast.
Can we change the company? Yeah, I'll have to look at that.
Yeah, I mean, that's just something to consider.
Yes, sir. I didn't think about that.
So it's 30,000 now, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Midlands one.
Yeah, it went up.
So we got 3 months.
So just.
Yes, but yeah, I'll thank you. I'm sure.
I'm gonna ask for some more information. I'm not
Yeah,
sure that
no.
we have to get into the pick it up right now. We want to get into pick it up, but let's get the right information. So let's put it back on the work session next meeting and have further discussion.
And that was gonna be my recommendation, because we're still submitting sites and stuff, so I'd rather have several sites ready to go when we rent this truck.
I'm sort of queuing off of Commissioner Buckner's question about how long between payments. I'd like to get an idea of, once we start submitting invoices, how long does it take to pay the invoice? And so if you can get an answer from ADEM regarding that, that would be appreciated.
Yes, sir. I'll find out, hopefully, this week.
And Mr. Skipper, I want to say I appreciate your innovation. You're trying to find a way, and I appreciate that.
Yeah. I'll comment there too. It's his work that has got the two grants that we have gotten from ADEM. So thank you, sir.
Thank y'all. And thanks for the hire approval. We're hired up right now, so.
Good deal.
Again, I need to find that big piece of wood.
Okay. Next part, just an update on where we are with docks. The question that we have asked Director Priya is take a look at a maintenance program to update our docks at county, Madison County Park.
So when we started from last meeting, I met with 4 dock builders and requested some quotes for replacement of docks. This is one that has come back already, and if you'll turn to page 2, you can see the total. That's within the park for a dock that is a day use dock. It's not a revenue generator. And this is constructed with the composite materials. It's a it's the exact same size of the docks we currently have, By doing that, it would not require a TDA permit. Once this quote came back, I haven't seen the other one, so I don't know if this one's just out in left field or what. I reached back out to the four and requested, in addition to a replacement, a resurfacing quote for if they could just redeck the docks and what that would look like. One of the three has already said that they wouldn't be interested in bidding on that. That they either want to replace it or they don't want the job at all. I don't know if that's due to a liability concern or what, but I kind of figured it would be. It's been over a week since I've heard from the other three, so I will be reaching back out to them this week to try to find out where they're at with the quoting process.
These are stationary docks, not a floating dock.
Correct.
So this price is for a stationary dock?
It is.
Is it the one where you have the boat rentals sitting at?
No, sir. It's going to be the one within the campground.
Okay.
So the idea was, I'm sorry?
The covered one?
No, sir, uncovered. The idea was to pick two of the more conveniently located docks, replace it with a new dock, and get rid of the other three, and just rely on these two to service the campground. And I'm still waiting on quotes for HB dock and a potential new rental dock as well.
Have you compared the permanent dock to a floating dock?
So the concern that got raised with the floating docks is how shallow we are in that area. So if the water was to drop, some of the vessels, they wouldn't even be able to get into it with water levels. In the meantime, we're still identifying boards that are posing safety hazards and getting those repaired and replaced.
Do you have money allocated in your budget for this?
We do. Well, not for replacement. No, we don't. But general upkeep and things like that. We've been using building and land.
Would it be feasible to look at the docks that you have in the campground and identify those that we may not need any longer, given the amount of the number of boats that are typically, let's say in a day or over the week, that are in those dock sites, and determine if there are docks that we can remove completely.
Go ahead and
And
remove.
then, go ahead and remove, and then look at either resurfacing or replacing docks, whichever's the best route. So I'm just asking if we could look at a couple of options, how we would refresh our dock structure in Jackson County Park.
So if I understand that, if you just put them back the way they were, then you would not require a new permit.
Correct.
So rather than tear down those docks that we're not going to be able to use, if we made them inaccessible and then at a later point decided we wanted to fix them, then we wouldn't have to reapply for a permit, correct?
Correct.
So if we took out a section of the dock, so it could.
Yeah, we could
access the
remove
land,
the gangway.
then we wouldn't have to re-permit.
Correct.
It would be a nicer one, but it would get us around the permit.
Are we still liable if somebody,
Absolutely.
Yes.
yeah,
If they could access it.
yeah. Okay, so I would propose keep reaching out, trying to find additional quotes, and if you could bring options forward of how to, what I'll call replenish, refurbish the docks.
Okay.
I just, again, remind you, it's more than $75,000. So you're gonna have to bid it.
Yes.
Not just-
Say that
not
again,
just-
John.
You're gonna have to bid it, not just get quotes.
Yeah,
Yeah, the idea with the quotes was just to kind of see what kind of ballpark we were going to be in for.
Is any of those local people?
No.
No local?
okay. All right, thanks very much. Next, Commission Office Update Personnel Policy. The reason I've asked for this to be put on the agenda is we have a personnel handbook dated 2005. And I am sure that there have been adjustments in federal and state guidelines regarding personnel, and it would be advisable if we were to, I believe, to take a look at updating our personnel handbook and personnel policy. So, Director of HR, Michelle, any comments or?
I agree. The last update was 2005. There have been federal and state laws that have changed and are ever changing. In addition to that, County Risk Services has suggested that we made a change. We could take those plus prior commission updates with the federal and state laws and combine it all at the same time. It's the thought process.
Okay.
There's, 2 quotes for your review in the packet if you would like to go in that direction with either of those.
So I did ask Michelle to reach out and see if there were folks who were, I'll call them experts in this area that could help us. And she did get in touch with ACCA, and they provided some, I will call them recommendations, if that's okay. And she has reached out to them, and so to the 2 quotes that we have here, one is from Hope Hicks and the other is from, Robbie Alexander Hyde, okay, to do this work. But if I would propose the process of doing this is look at state and federal, this handbook, update that. And I know there have been items that have come up for personnel policy discussions with the county commission. We need to look at those and decide how we integrate those into our personnel policy and bring that before the commission for approval with recommended, and identify the recommended changes that we need to make to the policy. So any question or comment?
No, I definitely think it needs to be done and brought up to date, and we need to get on a regular rotation of updating it. So, and of course, it won't take this amount of effort to update it. So
I'd like for it to be put online so that all employees get access online once we get it completed.
I think the ACCA said no more than 10 years.
we're a little past that.
We're past that.
The last update was really, the last policy was adopted in 2012, which is still 11 years ago.
Okay,
The last handbook was done in 2005.
2005,
The policy
okay.
was adopted in 12.
So we want to make these common, is that,
Yes.
if we could.
And the current handbook does not match policy.
Okay,
No.
that's one of the reasons we want to move forward and get this done. Okay, so I would propose we put this on new business for our next meeting.
And I'd
Okay.
like to add one thing, where we have a handbook and a personnel manual, both of these attorneys are recommending that we have one combined that everybody has access to.
Yeah.
So right now, we have 2 different things, and we would have just one at that point.
Okay. Any further comment?
No,
New business, next meeting?
yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. Next, we'll move to Public Works. We have 3 items there. Just a quick update on County Road 38, and then the SS4A on-call consultant selection. And we do need to look at the 2024 County Transportation Plan. So, Mr. Campbell.
Thank you, sir. So my goal tonight is just to run through quickly. You should have a group of pages and information that looks like this, so I'll be referencing that. That is dated July 17, 2023, and this is an updated proposal from our annual bid holder for geohazard mitigation and emergency response. And the contract items that are listed in this proposal stem from the annual bid. So this is essentially a proposal for the repair of what is referenced as the upper and lower sites on County Road 38. So I'm not going to get too far off in the weeds unless you guys would like to go there on this. I really just wanted to provide this for your review But it is, I do want to point out a couple things quickly. There's the upper area and lower area. The lower area is much larger and much deeper, and you may remember that from our geotechnical discussion that existed when we looked at the first phase of this components. So that is essentially that depth that exists at that lower failure is what's driving that repair and the cost. And so you'll notice an additional A-frame structure as it is referenced in the figure, and it's on figure 2 on page 5 that shows the typical of that repair. Also, you can see the snapshot of the overall cost as it is itemized by the summary of contract items. And then the last sheet is the warranty that's provided with this repair as proposed. There are some typical sections that you can see for the repair, but I can just tell you generally, the end product would look like visually from the roadway surface something comparable to County Road 189. So that is a vertical face near our existing right-of-way limits with a shotcrete face, and then those drains, drill drains that allow that repaired section to free flow. With that construction method, obviously there's grading that is needed adjacent to our right-of-way. So we've had successful luck in the past being able to cooperate that with our adjacent landowners, and so that's really the stage at where we are with this now. So identified in this are also components of the county. So it would be a joint venture in ancillary items performed by the county and the specialized work done by this contractor. So part of those ancillary items are grading, clearing and grubbing. So the excavation amounts that are listed for each of these sites tally up to the cubic yard of unclassified excavation that the county would be responsible for. So realizing that with this updated proposal and realizing the footprint that's involved, then that access onto the landowner and pursuing temporary construction easements for that access to the side of the road, as well as a waste site for the material that will be removed. So we do have an agreement in hand for an ADM permitted waste site that's nearby, and we are in discussions with the adjacent landowner for the access. So that's where we are now. So where we're headed next, obviously, we have to gain access to the roadway to make the repairs once approved, or if you all approve this, or if we change, whatever the case may be. And then once we have comfort with the commission and approval for the repair, we have anticipated plans for access and removal and all of our waste profile. Then all that is submitted to FEMA. So they will also make a review of everything you all have approved and what we propose, and then we'll seek their approval. So once we are at that stage, then we will enter into the stages of requesting a scope of work change, because this project has now been approved for engineering and architectural services only. So they look at what the anticipated plan is, what our proposed estimate is, and then they authorize that change and permit the work. Once we achieve that status, then we can move to environmental, historic, and preservation review. So we enter into an environmental phase to where they do a cursory review of our plans and how it may affect any of those categories. Then we should be near some sort of approval to begin work beyond that. So I'll stop there and try to answer any questions that you may have about anything.
Any thoughts on timeline once we get shovels in the ground?
So there is a 3 to 5 week mobilization and then a 15-week schedule that's proposed with this. So we would, now that is once work begins, that is a continuous process. So it's usually, there's a rotation, but it involves about a 6-day rotation and then 3 or 4 off, and then it repeats. So 15 weeks of work, you could probably safely double that once we get in the thick of the construction, just for weather purposes. Any other questions?
Okay,
Thank you.
next item.
So I believe, I don't have the agenda in front of me, but I believe it's SS4A. Ross has it up for us. So just to give you a little review here on this. So this is SS4A stands for Safe Streets for All. And then that's component one of this. And component two that we're proposing to you is an on-call agreement. So your information all runs together. So I'm gonna highlight the separate components as we go through this. And I'm going to start with just a quick overview. So SS4A, as you probably recall, was a grant that was a federal grant, and it had to do with the new infrastructure bill that was put out for local road initiatives for safety. It was apparent really quick that before implementation awards could be made or receive grants, that there must be a plan in place to acquire these grants. So our engineering office, Garen Matchin, headed this effort up, but he made application with this federal program for a action plan, safety action plan, to be in position for eventually the implementation grant. So we were notified that we received an award along with 5 others within the state that the award would be made for the Safe Streets for All Action Plan grant. So we are at a stage, and we've had meetings with TARCOG, and they are essentially paralleling our efforts as well on trying to be in position to get underway on this action plan. The necessity of the action plan and what we're going to talk about tonight on the consultant selection is to move forward with the components of this action plan and have it submitted, do the work that is allowed within the grant in order to be near or in the first round of implementation grants as they could be awarded as far as our state goes. So what we have in front of you is a proposal for professional services, and that professional service is submitted by a consultant named Kimley Horn. We first started our work with Kimley Horn and ALDOT. The work was actually through ALDOT, but it came about with Local Road Safety Initiative through our association. So sometime back, the association reached out about counties with local road safety initiatives that would begin a safety process of reviewing their routes within their county based on crash data that existed in the CARES program. Kimley Horn headed that up, and we were a benefactor of the first round of that. So when the application started for SS4A with us, we reached out to ALDOT, who then turned us to Kimley Horn to help frame up what our request would even be when we tried to formulate a grant request. So it was their information that we based our grant on with the original request that we submitted to FHWA. So we're back asking for your approval to allow this work to continue with Kimley Horn. What you see proposed is the agreement for SS4A. Now, you will also notice that they outline the project management, their stakeholder engagement processes that go along with this. The safety data and review is the meat of the work that will take place. And then also there are tasks and solution prioritization, and then deliverables, where we'll actually have mitigation recommendations and goals that we want to achieve from the data-driven problems that we arrive at through this. So that's the SS4A component of the work that the consultant would perform. That is contained in this piece of information here. Just as a quick overview, this is something about Kimley Horn organization, and we included this just because it highlights the $4.3 million action plan grants that they've been awarded and a part of, as well as the $54.5 million implementation grant. So in real quick summary, our goal is to find someone that speaks this language of grant application that knows how to navigate this way of securing funding and grants, and we feel confidence that they possess that. That's part A of the SS4A. Part B is the on-call consultant selection. So both of these agreements would be tied to an on-call agreement with ALDOT. And what I mean by that is when we were notified of our award of our SS4A grant, then we asked the question to our Federal Highway Administration partner on what is the acquisition process for a consultant as it relates to doing this work. We were given two answers. We can do a request for proposal like you all have seen and that we've done in the past, or you can utilize a pre-audited, pre-selected list within ALDOT. So Kimley Horn satisfies that option 2 of a pre-audited, pre-selected consultant within ALDOT. So we're essentially trying to continue the work that ALDOT started with our local road safety initiative and utilize it for our SS4A, but also be ready to strike when our action plan grant is written and we move to an implementation stage and we're ready to apply for the other grants based on the mitigation needs that are highlighted in our action plan. So what I mean by that is this action plan is going to be written. We've got the grant for that. It's going to be written. It's going to be submitted. We're going to be reimbursed for that. Then we're going to be in a driver's seat to then apply and timely nature apply for an implementation grant to carry out the things that are identified. So we feel it's important to have these agreements in place so that that work can continue, and we're in a grant application position to where we can readily make application for these, and then there may be efforts needed beyond that. What I mean by that is plan development or project management to some degree on acquiring these grants. We can certainly handle it when it gets to construction phase, but there are many steps to this that we know someone that's had success and managed this before. It would be wise to have in place. So that was a lot. So I want to stop there and answer any questions, if I may.
Any questions? When does action need to be taken regarding this?
So we had a meeting with TARCOG last week. They have a consultant selected also, and they're going to try to approve a consultant this month. And for those reasons I just mentioned, they want to be timely in their application, working through this first part of SS4A and be ready to strike. So I think we're fine. Whatever's comfortable as far as review and decision making. If it can continue, at least the discussion and maybe on a meeting when there's comfort there, we would appreciate that for sure.
So our grant was $87,000.
Yes, sir.
What is there any additional cost above the grant amount for this?
No additional cost, and the work for the SS4A will not exceed our grant amount. So just as a reminder, the grant amount does include a matching portion from us, and those projected costs, they're just projected costs, are listed on page 7 of this first proposal. And again, you're seeing an overall estimated cost broken down into the task. So the man-hour expenses that will exist are from a pre-audited on-call agreement with ALDOT. So those terms and conditions have already been negotiated, approved, and awarded. We would just be piggybacking from that agreement.
So our match would be above 87 to 105.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Put this on new business agenda for next meeting. Okay. Next item, the 2024 County Transportation Plan.
So this looks like the familiar form you're probably seen. And then attached to the map. So this is essentially as required by the Rebuild Alabama statute that exists for the quarry. The projects you see listed should reflect our choices in the Rebuild Alabama obligation, including the bonding amount. So the projects are listed as approved, and the note at the bottom illustrates that Jackson County will be bonding its rebuild revenue, and the selected projects are required to be completed within 3 years. We anticipate sooner, but they would take priority over federal aid exchange, and the remaining funds would essentially roll over to next year. So we full well recognize that we're going to be obligated to this work for year 1 and potentially year 2. So year 2 is where we would see other obligations roll onto this plan. But this plan, to satisfy requirements, would be posted at the courthouse, it would be posted at our department, and it would be posted on the county's website, pending your approval. So we are under a August 31 deadline for approval.
Okay. Any questions? So we can approve this next meeting?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we'll put this on your business for next.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Jonathan. Next, we move to the item we added for tonight. This is regarding the school resource officers from the Sheriff's Department. In your packet is an agreement that has been reviewed by the Jackson County Board of Education, as well as the Sheriff's Department and Personnel Department. Okay. And so with that, let me turn it over to Sheriff Harmon.
Well, thank you, Chairman. I think we found out the school board has been paying for their SRO salaries for the last several years. I think year 1 was paid through the county, and then they took it over for the next year or 2. We found some issues with that. They don't pay any workers' comp, and these guys are doing still sometimes a dangerous job by arresting people, even though they're in schools. So if they were to get hurt on the job, they would just be out. And so we needed something to take care of that problem. So the school apparently can't pay workers' comp, that's my understanding. And so they just thought it would be a good idea if we go back to letting the county pay it. They would reimburse the salaries, plus they'll also pay the additional amount for the workers' comp for the 4 SROs.
Okay. Mr. Porter, I think you've taken a look at this.
I have, and the school board has already adopted it, by the way, and approved it. But as Sheriff Harnan says, we've fixed some inequities that had existed previously. I was personally concerned that we had sheriff's deputies who were being paid by some other entity other than the Jackson County Sheriff and the Jackson County Commission, so we need to resolve that issue. Our deputies need to be paid by the sheriff and by the county and be county employees. And there was an issue with workers' comp because school employees don't have workers' comp. They've got a different system. So that'll fix that problem too. So, yes, sir, I've reviewed it.
Okay.
Comments? I make a motion we set aside the rules and get this approved, so.
I think maybe Michelle needs to look at it too before y'all do that, I don't know. One thing we would suggest is in the past, they have been paid 12 months, and they break it up by 12 months, kind of like the teachers do, so they're getting a check all year long. They would obviously get less per month per pay period, and that would be depending on how y'all want to do it every 2 weeks, just like we do, or it's probably the best way for you, I would suggest. But I would recommend that we do that as opposed to an hourly wage, just sort of a contract fee, and work out whatever as far as if they take a day off here or there. They're going to work some overtime, even though they won't get paid, so they'll just comp time that and adjust their work days accordingly. So they work ball games. Sometimes they work 2 or 3 ball games a week. So if they're working 4 hours 3 nights a week, then they've got 12 hours that they could either take off on another time, or come in, late on certain days. So that's how we would like to work it out if there's any way possible, just keep up with their amount of hours they work per week, and then adjust that accordingly.
Okay with that.
Is there an effective date on that?
There is not, it's blank.
So they get paid it's kind of odd, the school teachers get paid, and you know this, they get paid all the way through the end of August for last year. So one of our SROs that started last year at the beginning of school year did not get a check his first year. He's actually out on leave right now because he had surgery, but he's still collecting a check because that was the month he worked and didn't get paid last year. So we're hoping he's going to be back 1st of September to start collecting from us.
So let me ask, if we go through that review and make changes, does this have to go back to the school board to be reviewed and reapproved?
Is that different from what we have on there?
No, that's not different. I think the chairman was saying that if we do make changes, it will have to go back to the board and for them to approve.
And I don't know that it's a change, they're going to reimburse the cost for that, and I think
Right.
the commission can agree to do that any way they want to do it. They just would prefer, obviously, to get less money every month and get it all year round than have a couple, 3 months in the middle of the year that they'll get paid.
So is that an agreement issue or a compensation issue with the county?
I think the agreement calls for a memorandum setting forth what the exact pay will be, which includes benefits, which is not in the contract, so this doesn't have to be spelled out in the contract, and that can also be set out in that memorandum, how they're to be paid. But right now, they're to be paid like normal employees.
Okay, so
26 pay periods, whatever the school paid so far in this calendar year, deduct from the total, and I would pay the difference in the remainder of the biweekly payrolls.
Right.
And then we would pay the work comp as well, be reimbursed.
But I want a position here that we can proceed with the agreement and then work the memorandum separately?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Absolutely.
okay. Did you have a suggestion?
I'd like us to set aside the rules and get this approved so we can go forward with this.
So we have a motion to set aside the rules. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to approve the system-level school resource officer agreement between the Jackson County Sheriff's Office, the Jackson County Board of Education, and the Jackson County Commission?
I'll make it mine.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. And so we will work on the memorandum. Okay. All right, that concludes our work session. At this time, later on, we're going to move into executive session, but before we do that, reports from the staff. County Administrator?
I don't have anything today, thank you.
County Engineer? County Attorney?
I don't have anything, thank you.
Any other department heads, any comments? Okay. If not, the comments from the commission. District 4, Commissioner McBride.
Yeah, I just want to say, keep the McRae family in your prayers. All of McRae's family.
Okay. District 3, Commissioner Butler.
No further comment tonight, thank you.
District 2, Commissioner Kinnemer.
No comment.
District 1, Commissioner Galt.
Nothing for me.
And nothing for me as well. So our next meeting will be August the 28th, 2023 here at 5 o'clock. At